Hello, and welcome to Ideagen TV. My name is Dina Grimstead, and I'm Senior Manager of AI Programs and Strategic Partnerships at Microsoft US. I'm also a founding member of Microsoft's Talento US, a community dedicated to bringing Hispanic and Latinx employees together to promote career development, cultural awareness, and a more diverse and inclusive workforce. We know that in order to build products and services for a global audience, we need the diverse perspectives that represent the various demographics we serve. This is why an inclusive workforce is so important. Now, I'll turn it over to George Sofakis, founder and CEO of Ideagen, for an important conversation ranging from Resiliency of 2020, creating opportunities for Hispanic Americans, cross-sector collaboration, all the way to the power of partnerships as we look to 2021 and beyond. Thank you.
Welcome back to Ideagen TV's Dynamic Resiliency Summit. Dina, thank you for that kind introduction. And here we are today with an incredibly inspiring interview with two amazing leaders. Marianne Gomez from the Congressional Hispanic Leadership Institute. Marianne, welcome.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Glad to be here.
It's so great to have you here, and together with you to also have a good friend, a great global leader, former Congresswoman Ileana Ros-Lehtinen. Ileana, welcome.
Thank you so much. I am thrilled to be here. I love what we're about to do to discuss how CHLI can help you realize your dreams. At least that's what my agenda is, because CHLI is a dynamic organization headed by this wonderful lady with whom I share the stage, and it's got it's full of good ideas and good plans for all young people and to strengthen diversity in our great nation.
Yeah, that's a beautiful, beautiful segue. It's again so great to have both of you on Ideagen TV's Dynamic Resiliency Summit. We just came off an incredibly challenging 2020, as you know, perhaps for the first time in history, in human history. The entire planet experienced the same exact disruption with this pandemic. Ideagen stepped forth and we provided content and interviews and insights from global leaders throughout 2020 to help to inspire, connect the dots, and ultimately change the world. We went a step further and we said, those organizations that have survived and perhaps thrived in 2020 and into the future were dynamically resilient. And so we defined dynamic resiliency as an organization with a demonstrated, dedicated ethos focused on partnerships across sectors, which resulted in recovering and perhaps even reimagining operations after these most challenging circumstances. And it's further defined as the ability to see around corners and to reimagine in terms of what the future holds. What does this term mean to you? And would you define dynamic resiliency as what we just articulated? Marianne?
So first, I think that's really powerful, George. You know, one of the best compliments is when somebody copies something that you have. So I might be taking a couple of elements of what you had there. You know, for us and for me personally, and as the organization with the Congressional Hispanic Leadership Institute, I really saw 2020, to kind of piggyback on your definition, kind of recovery in motion. You know, it's really more a transformational year for a lot of different people, a lot of organizations, and transformational in the sense that, you know, we're not, as individuals, organization, and as the world, we are not the same anymore. Not necessarily changed, but I think we're more transformed. And so to me, that's really what I think about. And I'm hopeful that these collective experiences, some of the really sad ones, as well as some of the ones that gave us the opportunities to thrive, really bring us closer together, open some minds and open some hearts, and that we're more respectful and inclusive of each other and each other's countries and organizations.
That's right. And incredible, Marianne, to hear your perspective, especially as the president and CEO of the Congressional Hispanic Leadership Institute. And Congresswoman, you know, you've seen a lot, you've experienced a lot, 30 years in the United States Congress. I mean, that in and of itself says everything. How do you feel about dynamic resiliency?
Well, thank you so much. I think that an organization demonstrates dynamic resiliency with results. And CHLI is all about results. This wonderful organization that I joined 17 years ago, along with my legislative brothers, Lincoln Diaz-Balart and Mario Diaz-Balart, stands for leadership. It stands for development, diversity, and inclusion. And CHLI, the Congressional Hispanic Leadership Institute, is about getting results for each individual global leader, which is what we call our program to stimulate interest in the future generation to strive for public service, which is used to be a higher calling. It's gotten a little bit muddied these days, but I still believe in our core mission. And I think that we need to continue on a path to fulfill this core mission of delivering results. And I think that people are seeing that this is an organization without party filters. You can be Democrat, Republican, Independent, it doesn't matter. It's not a political organization, but it's to groom the Hispanic leaders of mañana. And we've been doing that. It's resilient because 17 years, and it's only getting bigger and stronger as we build more roots in all of the communities. It's based in DC, but it really is in your hometown. It's in that hometown. It's everywhere. And we're always looking for a broad array of young people who are interested in perhaps a career in public service, or just they're interested in building a better future for their children. Young people don't usually think of themselves as potential parents, but they will be. And I think that they get the leadership skills and the development skills being a global leader in CHLI. We provide them with that opportunity. And I'm so darn proud of what we've been able to accomplish in just 17 short years. We haven't been around as long as many other organizations have, but boy, have we delivered results. And these global leaders, man, they've been going to great futures, changing the world one neighborhood at a time. And so we start with the building blocks of society, and we expand out, and we let them know, even if they're the first one in their family, and oftentimes they are, to have even finished high school, or to have gone to college, to have finished college, to have taken an airplane ride to Washington, D.C., and they get to intern at not only in Congress, in the House, and the Senate, or in the administration, any administration, or in private businesses. We seek to put them in organizations so they know, oh, this is what I need to do. And it's just basic things like showing up on time and wearing the right clothes, and making sure that you have the people skills to get far. So we take folks who maybe that lack all of those kinds of social graces, and they're diamonds in the rough. So our job is to polish that diamond, and they will be in Tiffany's, and they will be just a beautiful, beautiful diamond. And very proud of the success of CHLI, but because we understand the value of being involved as a dynamic, resilient organization.
That's right. And I'd like to go a step further, Congresswoman. You know, you are
Ileana. My name is
Ileana. Ileana, you know, I have my leadership training came from my grandparents who used to slap my hand and say, if someone earned title, it's difficult for me. But Ileana, it's hard. Ileana, you are the definition. The definition. When you open up that Webster's dictionary and you see dynamic resiliency, I know we've created the definition, but you know what? You're the definition of that leadership. Because again, if you think about 30 years, lasting 30 years in the United States Congress, that takes a certain amount of leadership and an ethos and a belief that you have your convictions, but you can communicate. And that's what
the key.
that's
You're
what
so right.
thinking.
You know, and treat others with respect.
That's right.
It's that golden rule that's not a cliche, because we should live it every day. Treat others as you would like to be treated. Everybody's opinion is a valid one. Listen and show compassion, and really put yourself in others' shoes. And you never know when you're talking to someone what that person has been going through, and maybe that person gave you sort of a smart aleck answer, but let it slide. You can't fight every battle. You have to let some things go and fight for what you believe in. Principles never change, but cut people some slack, because we've all had off days. We've all had days when we've gotten on the wrong side of the bed and maybe we didn't handle the situation well, but be understanding. And I think that's what kept me in Congress for all those years, and why I enjoyed it every single day. I got to meet with individuals from all walks of life, and always treat everyone with the respect that we all want to be treated in. And I think those golden rules and those cliches, they stand the test of time.
That's right, the golden rule. And boy, it's forgotten sometime, but you're a testament to that. And my gosh, how fortunate are these students and these future leaders that you're preparing to have you associated and affiliated and helping to lead and infuse your lessons, your life lessons. I mean, unprecedented and so incredibly valuable. And so turning to Marianne for a second. So you are president and CEO of this amazing organization, CHLI, the Congressional Hispanic Leadership Institute. And have you seen an increase in opportunities for young Hispanics? And perhaps what are some of those opportunities that you both described? What do they look like?
Yeah, no, thank you. First of all, I want to give another shout out here to Ileana. She is in our CHLI familia. We call her the madrina. She's our godmother. A teacher at heart, and we both share that passion for educating, mentoring, coaching. And so I'm really blessed that this year in September will be 10 years that I've been blessed in working with the Congressional Hispanic Leadership Institute. And to the point of the question, there have been a lot more opportunities, not just for Hispanic students, but to kind of look at these opportunities for them in a couple of points here. One is that most Hispanic students have this depth and breadth of, bicultural, bilingual, understanding different classes, different grades and different scales that maybe some other students don't have that same capacity to hold in one human being. And so the opportunities for Hispanic students have really grown. There's a lot of technical skills necessary, but there's soft skills, and specifically to what Ileana was talking about, when we have the opportunity to take a student who is really interested in providing more and being of service. They come into our CHLI Global Leaders Internship Program, and we polish those edges and we polish that soft skill, and we expose them to different people and different opportunities. What we see now is a lot more focus, and maybe it's also because a bit of the transformation that we've all gone through is there's more interest and opportunities for people who have those soft skill sets. You can look at a resume and all 10 of them are valedictorians. But once you start looking through and looking at the personality, the characteristics, are they trustworthy? Are they reliable? Do they show up on time? Are they thoughtful and inclusive of different points of view? Those kinds of things don't really come up in a resume. And so those are the kinds of things that we see, those opportunities where Hispanic students are really excelling. And we look to the companies that also help, because years from now, Hispanics are going to be the majority minority group, and they're going to be your employees and they're going to be your customers. So it's an opportunity to really work with students. So you have a lot of technical opportunities, but I think there's this opportunity now, as I mentioned, for all of us to look at how we polish that so that Hispanic students can provide even more because of their resiliency.
That's right. And I see that, and I see that through the lens of myself, Greek American, and the ability, multilingual, and what a powerful element that is to the future workforce. And as you mentioned, the changing demographics in our nation, and you're preparing these leaders to tackle, some of these incredible challenges that we're seeing. I mean, all across the planet, you can't have blinders on to the fact that, we're all global citizens now, whether it's popular or not. Something happens in Washington, it's immediate. The entire planet knows about it, and its effects. And by the way, words matter. And my gosh, when you're preparing leaders, every single word you utter as a leader, in a small company, in a bakery, or whether you're all the way up to the president of the United States, words matter. So it's an incredible moment in time for me, and inspiring, actually, to hear how you're preparing these future leaders. And so shifting to Ileana, I love this. This, again, through the lens of someone who's seen your work and watched your just incredible leadership throughout the years. You were a refugee from Cuba. Many people know that. Some that are watching this globally may not know this. And what I find profound also is that you made history as being the first Hispanic woman and the first Cuban American elected to the United States Congress.
I still can't believe it myself. I mean, really, and let me tell you just a little.
That gave me chills, and I'm not Ileana.
A little bit about when I got elected in 1989. You weren't even born then, but it was a very hotly contested race, very ethnic and racially divisive. It was terrible because my opponent ran a platform of "This is an American seat," implying that I, as a Cuban refugee, naturalized American, was not an American. And he said, "This is an American seat." And so it was very, very terrible. And I did my first interview on the Today Show that morning when I got elected. And Katie Couric says, "How does it feel to be the first Hispanic woman elected to Congress?" And I'm thinking, oh gosh, what do I say? I said, "Well, Katie, I don't even know how to answer. I'm sure that I'm just thrilled to be in Congress, but I'm sure I'm not the first Hispanic woman." She goes, "Oh yeah, we've done the research. You are the first Latina." So let me tell you, I did not even know that I was the first Latina until they told me. And I'm always said after that, I'm glad I was the first, but I'm really proud that I was not the last. Now we have so many Latinas elected to Congress and so many other Cuban Americans elected to Congress. So maybe I was the first, but not the last, and not the best either. So we have a wonderful diversity of thought now with so many Hispanics elected to Congress. And this says so much about the greatness of this country. It doesn't say about the greatness of Ileana Ros-Lehtinen. No, it says about so much about the opportunities that are available to us. And sometimes we're the ones who hold ourselves back. And the great thing about CHLI is that we give them the tools. We give the young people the tools that they need to build themselves up, to be confident, to go into the world with sure footing, not proud or boastful, but understanding that they have a lot to contribute. Even if they're 18 years old, you have a lot that you can contribute. And so we give them the confidence to be themselves, to treat people well, and to say, you are good enough. What you are good enough, and we're going to help you sharpen those skills. But what a great country you're living in. The opportunities here are endless, and they're really the only barriers that exist are the ones that you put for yourself. And so we give them the confidence to tear down those barriers and be what they are destined to be, the great gifts that God has bestowed on each and every one of these young people.
That's right. That's right. And so I'd like to turn to both of you now. I mean, it's simply profound. It's profound. It's beyond words on many levels. There's no words that I could conjure up, and I don't have difficulty with that. But at this moment, I do. I have a difficult time describing how big of a deal that is, that you were the first Hispanic woman and the first Cuban American elected to our incredible United States Congress. I mean, and so when we're looking at this, I'd like to ask you both, because both of you have an incredible background and you're both changing the world literally every single day and the future. You're impacting the future. What advice, Marianne, what advice first, Marianne and then Ileana,
Yes.
would you provide to someone that would like to follow in your footsteps?
Oh, wow.
As you answer that,
wow.
I'm
And
write
then
down something.
I'm thinking I need to make sure that wow, that's an interesting question. I want to answer it this way, George, is that if I were talking to my younger self many years ago and thinking about this path, I would basically say, be as authentic, respectful, and inclusive, but be yourself. Really wear that best dress of confidence and really follow your heart. There's a lot of different paths. Like, for example, in my career, I did corporate, I've done community work, I've worked with different families. And I think part of it for me has always been being curious. And as a young Latina growing up in a farm worker camp, I think what really made the difference for me, George, is that curiosity of what does the rest of the world look like? What are other people doing? How can I contribute? And just being very curious about what you can contribute and being able to think about all those different facets. And so there's really not really one way in particular to kind of follow in those footsteps. But I think that there's an opportunity to, when I talk to young women, I say that, learn from my experiences. I want to make sure that my experiences I share with you so that your trajectory to success is shorter than mine. And that's the big gift back to myself as well.
It's simply profound.
For a second, and I want you to explain a little bit about what you said that in the middle of that wonderful explanation. What is your background? Where were you raised? What?
Yeah.
I mean, I think that we need to highlight this. This is an amazing story, and I always forget that about you. And every time when I hear it, I said, "Wait a minute, expand on that. Tell me." What?
Yeah. So it's really interesting because actually our chairman, Lincoln Diaz-Balart, who I've had the honor and the pleasure of also calling a friend. There's days when he's like really my boss, and then there's most of the days when he's just a really good friend. And when I interviewed for this opportunity, and he shares this. So I'm the eldest of 5. My parents were farm workers in Central California. They're both of Mexican heritage. And growing up in a farm worker camp at that time, wow, we had 3 TV channels, 2 in English, 1 in Spanish. But what I found really interesting, even in that environment where from a very, very young age, I was discriminated against for how I looked, how I sound, for my parents, you name it. So at a very young age, I learned to interpret and translate not only language, but also culture. And in doing so, I realized from what I was learning, and we had a very diverse environment. So we were farm workers, but the ranch managers were Japanese. Some of the other ranch owners in the area were Irish and Portuguese, and some of the other workers were Chinese, and other fellow Mexican Americans as well. So even in that little environment, as rural and kind of shelters as it was growing up, I'd learned about other cultures and respecting other people's points of view and where they come from. And really, I think part of it is one of the lessons has been really to learn how to meet people where they are. Don't drag them over all the time. You don't need to do that. But just meeting people where they are is powerful and inviting as well. And so being the eldest of 5, I had the opportunity to, have my bumps and bruises and all of that good stuff through high school. And then going on to college, I'm the first one on both sides of our 43 cousins to go to college. And as that is a responsibility and an obligation to help the others. So I've been doing
we call that
for a long
burying
time.
the lead, Marianne. That's called burying the lead, and we won't let you do that again. You start with that. What an inspirational message. Wow. You
Yeah.
can't just throw it in there. Like,
Yeah,
what if somebody misses that? This is an amazing story.
Thank you.
American
But
story.
I think what you just brought out is that you're humble, you're dynamically resilient, you're a leader. That's why you're a leader, because you're able to. You've overcome.
Mhm.
And now you're leading, but you're not forgetting. And that's the important thing. You know, you were on the International Relations Committee for so many years, Ileana. You had to deal with other cultures. None of that happened by accident, by the way. You didn't end up there because you had no passion for it, clearly. You were passionate about it. You were passionate about that leadership. You know, our chairman emeritus, the late Congressman Louis Stokes, you remember.
Wow, I served with him. Oh my gosh.
Yeah. Right. But you come from the same ilk. It's, you know, I asked him one day, I said, Congressman, how did you last like you in the Congress for 30 years? And I should ask you the same question. How did you last for 30 years being such a nice guy?
What did he say?
And he said, he became serious and he said, George, never mistake being nice for being weak.
Mm.
And I learned a lot just from that one statement, because you encounter people throughout life. Everybody gives you advice. And you know what? You can still be nice. You can still be nice and be effective.
Mhm.
You can still be nice and be empathetic.
Oh,
you can still be nice and understand that someone doesn't understand your background. Like you gave us chills today, Marianne, with your background.
I know.
It's incredible. It's incredible.
We had to drag it out of her.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, my advice, George, would be for young people, for our global leaders that are an essential part of why CHLI even exists, is to groom the next generation of leaders, is to be humble, to be confident. It is possible to be confident and to be humble at the same time. To be cognizant of the fact that good ideas can come from all places and all people, even a rapscallion and someone you don't think very much of. Even that person can have a good idea. So be open for those good ideas. Learn from people, whether they're mistakes or whether they're good examples to formulate and to follow. And I think that more than anything, expand your comfort zone. So often we're going to hang around the people with whom we agree. They're our friends. There's no arguments, but you know, there's a whole other world out there. And especially when they come to DC, once we get back to the real world and we can travel. You know, maybe you don't like art so much, but go to an art museum. When was the last time you went to a museum? And when was the last time that you went to see a symphony perform? We will have a normal world again, and expand your horizons. So often we're just hanging around the same people with the same ideas because it's comfortable for us. But make yourself uncomfortable. Every once in a while, challenge yourself every day to talk to someone you didn't talk to before. Ask questions. We can learn from everybody. Everyone has an interesting story to tell, even if they're reluctant to share it, like Marianne. But we'll drag it out of her, and you'll say, "Wow, I did not know that about you." Find out something new, even from your best friend. You can find out something new.
Mm.
Well, that's so well articulated, Ileana. And I'd like to ask you just a follow up to that. So at Ideagen, as you know, we're focused on cross-sector collaboration. We convene global leaders and luminaries. We hold as a virtual backdrop the global goals of the United Nations, things like empowering women and girls, poverty.
That is so important. I mean, women and girls. It's still an all boys club. No offense to our host or to anyone listening, but
right.
It's still, the world is still made up and run by a lot of guys, and so we need to do a lot more to give girls that confidence to express yourself and to raise your hand and to answer questions. And some of them don't have it, and they'll be willing to let others take charge. Have them be leaders for the day.
That's right, exactly. And we've been talking about the empowerment of women and girls. We host an annual summit on empowering women and girls with the United Nations, at the United Nations. And I think, we love to include some of your future leaders to speak. So we'll talk about that. I'd like to ask as well, so 30 years in the Congress, how, Ileana, did you approach collaboration while you were sitting in those hallowed halls?
Yes, well, I just had, first of all, I was always so amazed that I was there. I surprised myself when I would go into that dome, this beautiful lit dome, and think, oh man, this little Cuban refugee girl who came to the United States not knowing ni una palabra en inglés, and now I'm here setting the policy of the United States. And for a while there, let me just tell you this, Tom Lantos, the only Holocaust survivor to have ever served in Congress, he's passed away. He was the chairman, and I was the ranking member, meaning the top Republican. And we were both naturalized Americans, and we would look at each other and say, is this a great country or what? Neither of us born here, and we're setting forth the policy, the foreign affairs policy of the United States. And this is an incredible country. So the first thing I always tell young people is be amazed at this wonderful country in which you are growing up. And you have so many benefits that others do not. Don't let those benefits go to waste. You may not think of yourself as privileged, but you are. Use that privilege for good to help others lift themselves. We have a great opportunity.
Oh my gosh, what incredible advice. Talk about, wishing that I or so many millions of others were able to have this kind of advice, and how fortunate everyone that affiliated with CHLI is to have access to these kinds of insights. And so insights leading into Marianne. So president and CEO. Just an incredible background, empathy and leadership built into your leadership style, right? It's embedded, and you're creating partnerships. Mm-hmm. Can you just cite a few examples, one or two examples of partnerships that you've developed and the opportunities that they've helped to create?
Well, nobody is successful alone. And I think that the other opportunities have come before us in other circumstances where we've seen that collaboration, partnerships are key. So, for example, in our internships, we look for partners who are going to take in the interns for a corporate assignment. We look for other organizations, other NGOs here in the United States and abroad to be an advisor, to have these kinds of conversations, whether in person or virtual, to have those different lessons learned. And the other partnerships that are very, very key are relationships with universities, with community colleges, and with people in the philanthropic community. Because again, Ileana mentioned it, and George, you've mentioned it as well. It's really about collaboration, about partnership, about bringing different points of view together. So, we always look at every semester at the cohort of interns, and we figure out what their background is. We ask them a lot of questions about who they would like to meet, what are their future goals. And so every cohort, every semester has its own characteristics and their own little profile. So we look at everything that they're interested in, and then we go look for those partnerships. If we don't know someone in a certain area that is going to contribute and add value to that particular group, we look for them. And so we're always looking for partners to add to that CHLI family, to grow and make it more robust. And so there's always room in our wonderful family of abundance. There's always room for more, because it's important that we provide those kinds of resources to the students. And you'd be surprised by some of the collaborations and the different networking that happens when people meet each other, even our corporate partners or sponsors or even board members on the congressional side. When we're able to get together, it's just hilarious, whether in person or virtual, how just different things that come up also add value to each other and other adults as well. It's not always just about the students.
That's
today is tell me how that stack of books is still stacking up. How does it not fall to the floor? Is that a real stack of books? What's going on over there?
It's our vertical bookshelf. So no fear. I can take the book out and I can put it back in later.
Well, you are balanced. So and that bookshelf is a great manifestation of how well balanced you are.
Thank you, dear. Thank you very much. I love all those books back there too.
Well, you are both an incredible inspiration. I want to send a heartfelt note of our deepest gratitude from Ideagen, especially during this Dynamics Resiliency Summit, to say you are both, again, the definition of dynamic resiliency. And if we were to call out something, what is your call to action for our global audience as a result of this presentation today?
My call to action, based on so many things that have happened this year, is let's tone down the rhetoric. Let's get to know one another. Everyone is an important person in their own right, and let's show some compassion, generosity of spirit, and let's rule with a servant's heart, and tone it down.
So my message is, as noted earlier, we are all citizens of this globe. And I really want to focus this message on supporting our youth. So I ask that wherever you are, in whatever country, organization, wherever you are, that you really focus as much as you can, or at least include those opportunities to support our youth. Make sure they have the resources to thrive, to contribute, reach out and help a youth. And we need them. We need them. It's the youth around the world have gone through a lot this year. We're able to thrive a little bit more. We've lived through more. We've seen more. But let's embrace them. Let's make sure that they're ready to thrive, that they can contribute, because it's our responsibility to lead. It's our responsibility to model and to teach, and to do it with a lot of compassion and with a lot of heart.
Amen, sister.
Incredibly well said. And how do folks find out more about CHLI, the Congressional Hispanic Leadership Institute?
Marianne, where should they go? What is our website?
So a couple of things. One is to go to our website, which is CHLI.org. You can also connect with me on LinkedIn. You can follow us on Twitter at the CHLI, CHLI, and we would love to visit with you. We love to learn about what you have to offer, what you have to contribute, and if you know of somebody who can be part of our program, by all means. We not only have our Global Leaders Internship Program, we've created law fellow programs in the summer to support our law students. We have other partnerships with other organizations that have internships as well. So we're always open. If you have an opportunity for a program that we don't know about, we want to partner with you. So let us know.
Thank you so much. You are a magnificent host. Thank you.
Thank you, Congresswoman.
Wonderful to us.
Congresswoman Ileana Ros-Lehtinen. Ileana and Marianne Gomez, President and CEO of the Congressional Hispanic Leadership Institute. I again want to say thank you for inspiring so many millions of people during the show today on Ideagen TV's Dynamic Resiliency Summit. Thank you for all you're doing to change the world. Ideagen Global, powered by Azure and presented globally by Microsoft. Thank you.
Thank you, George. Thank you.
Thank
Happy
you so
New
much.
Year. Wish everyone the best year.
Bye,
Thank you.
everybody.
Thank you.